source com.company.hello-world main activity.java. This is the directory. In this default activity file that application here, recall each application at least one activity. Recall that each application has at least one activity here. The activity file, it is automatically defined the default launch activity in the Android manifest file. Already learned about the Android manifest file here. This default file of the application. Here you have to recall that each application has at least one activity. It acts as a main entry point to the application here. Next, this activity file is automatically defined as the default launch activity in the Android manifest file. Already we learned about the Android manifest file. Next, folder is the gen folder, means generated folder. You have to files generate means here it contains the Java files. Generated by the ADT, abstract development. Chudamma, it generated by the ADT, abstract data type, on C compiling the application. Here in this generated folder, it contains the Java files. It is generated by the abstract data type on C compiling this application. Here this gen folder already existing after compiling the application for the first time. This folder contains two files. Here, what are the two files means? Here r.java, next build config.java, next r.java. Here r.java means this file that contains the references for all the resources defined in the references directory. Okay, now here this file that contains the references for all the resources defined in the RES directory. RES means resource directory. Next, build config.java. Here that file, in this file it is used to run code only in debug mode. Debug means how to correct and detect the errors. It contains the debug constant. It helps in running debug only functions. Here. Build config.java. This file that is used to run code only in debug mode. It contains a debug constant that helps in running debug only functions here. Next you see here gen in the com.company.basic hello world r.java. Next, in that gen folder you have two files. Now, what are the two files here? r.java and build config.java folder file. Here first here is the r.java. Here all the layout and other resource information, it is coded in the XML files. Here these are the layout and other resource information, it is coded in the XML files. It is after we code in the XML files, it is converted into the Java source code. And it is placed in the r.java file. Here it also means that the file contains the ID. Of all the resources of the application. Means it is also the file contains the ID of all the identity of all the resources of that application. Here r.java file is compiled into Java bytecode files. and then convert into the .dx format. R.java file is compiled into a Java bytecode files and then convert into .dx format. Next, here we show in this folder, in this path, here you have never edit this file, it is automatically overwritten. It is automatically overwritten here when you add or edit resources. It is automatically overwritten when you add or edit resources in this folder. Gen or in this gen, this is a gen is the folder here. In this folder, it is the file com.company.basic hello world, that r data r.java. These are the two files. This is the file, one of the file here. It is compiled in the Java bytecode files and it is converted into an .dx format. Next another folder is assets folder. Next you have to create the assets folder. Here this assets folder is empty by default. Here in this folder stores the raw asset file that may required in the application. Means in this folder contains the fonts, external jar files and so on to be used in this application. Here it may contain fonts, external jar files and so on to be used in this application. Here this assets folder is like a resource folder where uncompiled resources of the project are kept and no IDs are generated for the resources kept here. Means this assets folder, it is a resource folder but it is uncompiled resources. In this uncompiled resources of that project, means here no IDs are generated. Here in this assets folder no IDs are generated for the resources kept here. Next this is the package explorer. It is window showing the different directories, subdirectories and files automatically created by ADT. This is the figure This is the figure. You have to package explorer here. In this package explorer you have to show the here different directories and subdirectories and files automatically created by ADT. Abstract data type. In this here see basic hello world in that source folder. In that source for com.company.basic hello world, in that main activity.java, in that main activity, in that on create we have to learn in future, in this future on create. Next gen, you have to generate Java files, generate chedaniki gen folder uses some. Next Android 4.1 version here, Android.jar file here, .jar. Next Android dependencies. Here in this Android dependencies folder to create Android support. Next assets folder. In that assets folder bin folder. Next libraries. In this libraries Android support version 4.jar file. Next resources file, res references file here. In this references folder here, in this folder we have these files drawable. In this we have action, search, ping, launcher ping. This is the package explorer here. Next first Android SDK jar file. Here Android SDK jar file means here have to this jar file for the target platform. Here in this jar file we are having some of the bin folder, res folder, like that. Here bin folder, this folder that stores the compiled version of the application. Next res folder means this folder where all application resources, means images, layout files and string files are kept like this in this resources file. This folder where all application resources, means images, files and string files, like that. Here next in that res folder we have drawable XHDPI and drawable HDPI. These are the in this folder we have, these are the directories here. Means in this application icon and graphic resources, these are kept in these folders here. Why we have to these kept in these folders means here, because devices have screens of different densities, because devices have screens of different densities, the graphs of different resolutions are kept in these folders. Means we are having different devices. By using in Android we are having different devices. In that different devices, here we have different densities, different screens, different resolutions, and that's why we are using the in the resources folder having this drawable XHDPI, in that RS drawable HDPI, in that MDPI and LDPI. Means here densities, graphics, like that. Okay, now next in this, usually graphics of 320 dpi and 240 dpi, 160 dpi and 120 dpi. Means these are graphics used in Android applications. Here this application picks up the graphic form of the correct from the correct folder after determining the density of the current device. Here these applications icon and graphic resources are kept in the folders. Means here these devices have the screens of different densities, different resolution are kept in these folders. Here these graphics of 320 dpi, 240 dpi, here 160 dpi and 120 dpi. Here these are used in the Android applications. Here this application picks up the graphic from the correct folder. Here DPI means is the dots per inch. Here HDPI means HDPI means it is the high density. HDPI means here high density dot per inch here. Next means high density screens here. Next XHD means extra high density here. Next extra high density here. Next MDPI means here it is a MDPI means it is a molecular diversity here. Next LDPI means dot these are the here XHDPI and HDPI, and these are the MDPI means LDPI. These are the dot per inch DP and dots per inch here. Means in this we are using different resolutions for the graphics. Extra density XH means high density, these are the densities, and large. Next level density, this is the level density. These are the these are the applications. I are using the applications icon. These are the graphic resources and kept in this general folder. General folder generates. Now next, this application picks up the graphic from the correct folder of determining the density of the current device. Next RES layout. RES layout means it stores the layout files in XML format. It stores the layout files in the XML format. Next, here RES values. Here RES values means it stores all the value resources. This value resource include many types such as string resource, dimension resource and color resource. String resource, dimension resource and color resource. Next, in this RES, next layout, next activity main.xml. Activity main.xml here. Activity main.xml, this layout used by the main activity to draw views on the screen. Here, these views are controls are laid in the specified layout. Next, here in this RES, in this values, in this strings.xml means it contains the string resources. Next, these string resources on the text matter to be assigned to different controls of the application. Means here RES layout, RES values, these are the figure in this RES only, this folder only have layout. In that layout, activity.main.xml. After that, menu, values v11, values v14. Here Android manifest.xml. Next, IC icon launcher, web.png. This is the package explorer here. Next, next one is the Android manifest.xml. Here in this Android manifest.xml is the central configuration file for the application. It is a central configuration file for the application. Here it is one of the most important file in the Android project structure. It is one of the most important file, and by using the how to do the Android project structure, this is the important file, Android manifest.xml. Here it contains the information. It contains this folder. This file contains the information of the package. It includes the components of the application such as activities, services, broadcast receivers, content providers. These are the 4 components: activities, services. It contains information of the package. It contains the components information, means components of the application. These are the components: activities, services, broadcast receivers and content providers. These are the components. Here next, what are the properties by using in the project? Here is the by using the project properties. Here a build file used by Eclipse. Here is there any file used, we have to build some file here used by Eclipse, and the Android editing plugin means it is the file used by the Eclipse and Android editing plugin. It contains the project settings. Such as we build target. We can use this file to change the various properties of the project, and by using this, these are the project properties. Here, if required, is there any how to change in that in that project? The file should not be edited directly, but through editors available in Eclipse. In Eclipse only, by through editors, how to edit the file edit means here the file should not edit directly. That's it's clear that the Java activity file is the main file. It drives the entire Android application. Means in this entire Android application, here what is the main file? Means Java activity file is the main file. That is the, it is clear that Java activity file is the main file that drives the entire Android application. Here these are the project properties. Here these are the project properties. Next. Next topic is the, this is the topic overview the project file. Overview the project file here. Project Android project files. Overview the Android project files. These are the folders. Next, what are the properties of that project? What are the properties of project here? Next, you have to understanding the activities. Here, you have to understand. Next topic is the understanding activities here. First, what is meant by activity here means, here this activity, an activity is a single screen in Android. It is a single screen in Android here. It is like window in desktop app. It is like a window in desktop app or frame in a Java program. Here in activity it is a single screen in Android. It is like a window in a desktop app or frame in a Java program. Here this activity plays all our UI components and user interface components or widgets together on the screen. Next point here, unique screen, the user interacts in the application displayed through an activity, one activity for each screen. Here activity is an single screen in Android, means we are having phones and computers. In that computer we have only one single screen. In that screen we are having some of apps. That apps are frame. Desktop apps are frame in Java program. Java program using as frames like. Here in this activity allows a place, in this activity allows the user interface components or widgets together on the screen. Here. Here every unique screen the user interacts with an application. Every unique screen the user interacts with the application. It is displayed through an activity. Means here one activity for each screen. Here users can interact with an application by performing the different actions with the visual controls found in the activity. Here users can interact with an application by performing different actions with the visual controls found in the activity. Here next point is, here a simple application may consist of just one activity. Here simple application consists of just one activity here, whereas large applications contain the several activities. Here large applications contain the several activities. Here each activity of an application operates independently to the others. Here each activity of an application operates independently to others. Here in this, for example, here we have worked with C, C++ or Java programming language. We have worked with C, C++ or Java programming language. Here we must have seen that our program starts from main function. Here in this main function, here very similar way, in that way Android system initiates the program within the activity starting with the call, means on create callback method. Here this is the sequence of callback methods and start up an activity and sequence of callback methods. Means by using this method, with the sequence of callback method that starts up an activity and a sequence of callback methods. Next point here. Next point is, a stack of activity is maintained while running an application. A stack of activities. Stack means here last in first out. Means in this stack of activities is maintained while running an application. Means in this activity, the top of stack is currently displayed here, currently being displayed here. When the back button is pressed here, the activity is postponed, the activity is popped from the stack. Here, when the back button is pressed, the activity is popped from the stack, making the previous activity the current activity, which it displays the previous screen. Means here the activity is popped from the stack when the back button is pressed. Back button press చేసాం అనుకోండి యాక్టివిటీ అనేది పాప్ అయిపోతుంది స్టాక్ లో నుండి. Here making the previous activity the current activity. Here it displays the previous screen మాత్రమే చూపిస్తుంది. Here the transition from one activity to another by through the use of the asynchronous messages, that is called the intents. Intents. Here the transition from one activity to another through the use of the asynchronous messages. Asynchronous means different messages, that is called the here intents. Here intents can be used to pass data from one activity to another activity. Intents, already we learned intents in last class. Intents can be used to pass data from one activity to another activity. Here all the activities in this application, it is defined in the application manifest file. Here all the activities of the application, it must be defined in the application's manifest file. Here in this XML file that keeps track of all the components and permissions of the application here. Here each activity in Android application is either direct subclass of the activity, base class, or subclass of an activity subclass. Here each activity in the Android application is either a direct subclass of the activity base class or a subclass of an activity subclass here. Next in this activity life cycle. Here in this activities have life cycles. Here in this activities set of life cycle, we are having some of the set of life cycle methods from the activity base class. In that base class, they are executed that some corresponding life cycle state of the activity is reached here. Here the activity life cycle defines the states or events. Here this activity goes through from time it is created until it finishes running. Here in this activity monitors and reacts to these events by executing methods. The activity monitors and reacts to these events by executing these methods. It overrides the activity class methods for each event. Here each time the activity state changes. One of the following lifecycle methods, it is called as activity class here. Each time the activity state changes, one of the following lifecycle methods will be called on the activity class here. Here in this, the lifecycle method of activity, it describes how activity will behave the different states. This lifecycle states describes the lifecycle. This lifecycle method of activity describes how activity will behave at different states. ఈ లైఫ్ సైకిల్ మెథడ్ ఏం చెప్తుందంటే ఎలా యాక్టివిటీ బిహేవ్ చేస్తుందంటే డిఫరెంట్ స్టేట్స్. ఫస్ట్ దీస్ ఆర్ ది డిఫరెంట్ స్టేట్స్ అమ్మా. నెక్స్ట్ డిఫరెంట్ స్టేట్స్. ఫస్ట్ ఆన్ క్రియేట్. నెక్స్ట్ వన్ ఆన్ స్టార్ట్. నెక్స్ట్ వన్ ఆన్ రెజ్యూమ్. First one on create. Here This is called when the activity is first initialized. This is called when the activity is first initialized. We have to need to implement this method in order to any initialization specification to that activity. Here views are created. Here views are created. Views are created means you have to bind data. Here this bundle object is passed where all the previous activity states are captured. How to create? First, this is called the activity is first initialized. First this activity is first initialized. After that, you have to implement this method in order to any initialization specific to that activity. Here, these views are created and you have to bind the data. How to bind the data? In this bind the data, it is passed where all the previous activity states are captured. Where all the previous activity states are captured. Next, on start. Next state is on start. This is called the first time that the activity is about to become visible to the user. Visible to the user. Here, this activity prepares to come to the foreground, become interactive. Means, for example, here once this callback finishes, you have to go for unresume method. For the unresume method will be called here. Unresume method will be called here. Here, what is meant by unresume? Unresume. Here, when the activity goes into this state, it begins to interact with the user. Interact with the user. First interact with the user. Here, this activity continues the state till happen to take focus from the app or activity. Means we are getting some incoming call. When this happens means on pass method will be called. On pass method will be called. Pass method will be called here. Next on pass method. Next on pass method. On pass method. Here this method it is used to pass operations. This method is used to pass operations. That should not happen when the activity is in passed state. Here a call to this method indicates the user is leaving the app. A call to this method indicates the user is leaving for example, music player app incoming call will call this is the in music player app incoming call will cause the app to transition into a passed state. Next, this should mute or pause the currently playing music. When the user returns to the app, on resume method will be called. On resume method will be called here. User returns the app malli vacham anukondi ee method call chestundi. Okay na? Next, on stop. Next one, on stop. This method is called when activity is no longer visible in the app. This method is called when the activity is no longer visible in the app. It is happen. For example, when another activity has been loaded, it is taking the full screen of the device. When another activity has been loaded and it is taking the full screen of the device. Here, when this method is called, the activity is said to be in the stopped state. In this state, the system either the calls are on restart to bring back interactive with activity. And on restart and method ni call chestunama with activity. It calls on destroy. On destroy method to destroy the activity. Here destroy. On destroy means this gets called before the activity is destroyed. Means here the system calls this method when user terminates the activity or because system is temporarily destroying. Means the process that can act to save space. The process that contains the activity to save space. స్పేస్ అనేది మనకి ఎక్కువైపోయింది అనుకోండి మొబైల్లో సేవ్ని ద స్పేస్లో ఉన్న ఫైల్స్ రిమూవ్ చేసి అడుగుతుంది and that activity is called destroy method. Here we to have to free up any resource your activity as created in this method means your app will have memory leak or else your app will be memory leak. On that time you are using the destroy method. Destroy the activity here. Next, on restart. On restart means this gets called when activity restarts after it had been stopped. This gets called when an activity restarts after it had been stopped. Here all the activities of an application, permissions and intents are defined through the XML structure. XML structured manifest file, XML structured manifest file, Android manifest.xml, Android manifest.xml. Here for each activity this needs to be an entry in the Android manifest.xml, Android manifest.xml. Here when you can define these labels, permissions, so on. When you do where here we can define labels, permissions. Here in fact the manifest file is the configuration file with the different components of the application are defined. Application are defined. Now this is the diagram for the activity life. This is the life cycle of activity. This is the life cycle of activity. Here you have to create the activity launched, on create, on start, on resume. Activity running and running here. Here another activity comes into the foreground, on pass. On pass. Here on pass means user enters to the on resume method వెళ్తుంది. Next the activity is no longer visible, on stop. On stop. Here on pass. Apps will higher priority need memory means app process killed. How to user navigates to that activity. మళ్ళీ క్రియేట్ చేయమని అడుగుతుంది. Next user returns to the activity. Next on stop. User navigates to the activity. On restart. Here this activity is finishing or being destroyed by the system. On that time on destroy method means next one is the activity shutdown. Activity shutdown. Activity shutdown. This is the life cycle method. This is the life cycle method we are using in the activity. Understanding this activity, these are the methods: on create, on start, on resume, on pass, on stop, on destroy, on restart. These are the methods how to create the these are the life cycle, activity life cycle. Next this is the program. Here I have to program to demonstrate life cycle methods of an activity. Here import android.app.activity. Here android.app.activity. Here in this android.app.activity, in this android activity, in this you have to import the Android OS bundle is android util.log. Here in this these are the public class main activity extends activity. Override here means protected, how to create, on create. Here first protected void on create means bundle saved instance state. Super class, you have to use a super class, super dot on create saved instance. Next set content view, r dot layout activity main and life cycle, on create invoke. Next on start method, on create method, on start method, on resume method, on pause method, on stop method, on restart method. Next on destroy method. Next this is the life cycle. We have to demonstrate the life cycle methods of an activity. These are the two topics we completed in second unit. Next we'll continue next class role of activities. I think role of activities, that is a fifth topic. Hello.